when the school system was created, how it was for the 9-to-5 worker, right? It's not really optimized for somebody to be a creative, problem-solving entrepreneur, right? In order for you to develop those type of skills, you got to do stuff, right, with your hands,
bro. That's it.
And you got to work, right? I think we used to have those type of things in school. This is why the education industry, online education, is so booming, because our traditional education system isn't giving us what we need to be able to take advantage of this digital revolution that's taking place right now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Digital Storytellers Academy YouTube channel. It's your boy Bakari Kamal, and I'm here with...
What's going on, guys? Duet Payne here. Hope you guys are doing well.
And today we're going to be talking about this idea of keeping a 9-to-5 for security, when in reality, it really doesn't have the security that we always think it has. You know, and we want to talk about how you can go out into the marketplace and really secure your own business, your own brand, so that you can move from just trying to be stable to moving in a place of prosperity and excellence. So let's talk a little bit about that, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when I think about 9-to-5, you know, it's nice and comfortable. You know, you're getting paid every 2 weeks. You know, it's coming in every 2 weeks. You can definitely bank on that. But the thing that makes it tricky is the fact that it's tied to your time. That's one thing.
Yeah, it is.
But then also, you're really low value. Like, to be honest, in a lot of situations, you're really low valued. And, like, you know, they'll put, you know, what your skill is worth or what you're worth is $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Or, you know, $20 an hour at best or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But then, what about those individuals who within 1 hour, you know, get paid $10,000 or $50,000? Like, what is the difference between that? You know, are they more skilled at something than you are? You know, possibly. You know, you may have some skills that you need to develop or anything, but that should be something that you may want to actually venture into and consider, you know, is this really able to scale? Is this something that I should remain in, you know, based off of the time and energy that I'm putting into this, the regular 9-to-5, just for the sake of knowing that every 2 weeks I'm going to receive this check amount or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I think something you said there was this idea that, is it worth the investment of your time?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to be incrementally getting additional monetary reward for your value that you're bringing to the table in the marketplace from a corporate perspective, right? From a 9-to-5 perspective, right? And when you quit or when you leave a job and you go and become an entrepreneur, you're not just immediately going to blow up and just be making $10,000 an hour. So we're not saying that. But at the same time, the investment is worth it, because if you work 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, now you're getting the skills. You're learning, you're having that opportunity for growth, and you can apply those to different businesses. Honestly, even when you leave being an entrepreneur, if you go back to working in a 9-to-5 job, you have a different perspective, a different mindset. So it's like the investment that you get from actually jumping out and venturing into your entrepreneur journey, it is a higher return on investment over a period of time, I think. So I think you don't get that opportunity for growth in the 9-to-5 workplace these days.
That's good.
It doesn't seem like it to me.
Yeah, and when you think about it, you know, that incremental, oh, you got a raise and everything, the way the economy changes and the value of the dollar, you know, going down, it's actually just kind of equating as you go up when you think about it.
Yeah.
And all this being pulled from your check and all these different things and all of that. Yes, of course, you have to pay taxes and all of that. You know, we're not talking about that specifically, but the idea of, you know, there's so much more that you can do when you're working your own business and operating your own business and venturing onto whatever skill God is giving you. Now, what's another reason besides, you know, the security of the 2 weeks that people may not venture out into doing entrepreneurship? And what's another reason that you've seen?
Well, this is, you know, for me, it's just what we have been trained to do. You know, from a societal perspective. When I was getting out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet.
Yeah.
But I knew I went to college. You know, I was in the area of media. And I got multimedia design degree. And I'm like, I'm not ready to go into a corporate setting. I don't know what I would like to do in that area. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to the military. You know, I wanted to go to the military after high school. I finished college. Yeah. So for me personally, I knew I wanted to do something creative, but I didn't ever feel like the corporate 9-to-5 work environment was for me. Once I went to the military and got out, I worked in corporate for a little bit. Yeah. But it was just because of that, like, oh, I want security. I've already invested in this degree, might as well use it. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons, right? It's like you already have invested your time into a degree. You've invested into this ideology that you go to college for 4 years, then you can go get an entry-level position, and eventually you can work up and get this 6-figure job. Yeah, man. That's the blueprint that we were given, that we are seeing is not what it's cracked out to be. Yeah. Even when you go and you look for jobs, I mean, I didn't know this when I was younger, but I know now it's really not really about what's on the resume all the time. It's not really about the qualifications all the time, right? It's always about like, oh, who do you know? Or how is the energy when you're talking to somebody, and how well do you communicate, right? And those are the things that really can help you get into position. Yeah, wow, that's so good. I just want to sit there right where you're at, saying we've been trained, we've been conditioned, we've been, you know, caught up in this concept since early childhood that you are going through school and the purpose of academia is to set you up to go and work for someone else. By the time you're an adult, there's no thought of, hey, with everything that I've learned, I can go and venture out and start my own, unless you just happen to have that situation where you ran into someone at an early age who is in that. But if your family or your situation or what you're seeing on TV or what your teachers are telling you is all geared towards, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Who do you want to work for? Which company do you want to work for when you grow up? You rarely hear anyone say, oh, my own company. You know, I want to start my own thing based off everything I'm learning. And that's the way that it's set up, you know, and it's a shame that, you know, there's stats. I don't have the specific statistic, but they say by the time you get to a certain grade level, your creativity has gone down so low. Like when you're like preschool and kindergarten, it's like around, what was like, you know, 190%, something around there. By the time you graduate, I think high school, I think it's down to like something like under 10% or something. Wow. Like that. Yeah, I got to get those stats, but I remember reading that last year. I was like, that's crazy. That it's kind of just beating it out of you in a sense with the line that they kind of say this is the way to go. And it's crazy that this keeps going every single year because schooling will never end. Yeah. So every year, new students will enroll, and it just keeps going the same system where, there's these hopes. I really want my child to go to college so they have the best future because me as the parent, I didn't really experience the best. So I want the best for them. So you buy into this lie that's going to say, oh, if you do this, they'll be set up. But no, they're toiling. They get into a lot of debt. Everyone is still paying off. Yeah. Looking for work, getting paid less than what they're valued for. In their 20s and 30s, stressing out about like, where should I go? Where should I work out? No one's hiring. Resume after resume and all of this. And at no point do you sit back and go, what can I start? What money can I be generating or making myself based off of the skills that I have on my own? Now, a lot of situations will push you towards that. We know that COVID caused a lot of people sitting around like, I want to kind of start a business. A lot of businesses launched during that time and whatnot. Yeah. But sometimes those hard situations do push us in there. But from the onset, it's like our mindset is really, you know, someone needs to hire me. I see so many statuses on Facebook, sad and everything. Nobody's hiring me and stuff, whatever. I kind of comment on there. I was like, hey, you know, let's chop it up. Let's talk because there's a lot that you can do and actually monetize and get something going. But yeah, do you have anything to say on that? Because I have another point as well after that. I guess I'm curious to know for you what your journey was like if you ever worked a 9 to 5. Oh, yeah. What made you come to the realization you were like, yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. So let's see. So I graduated back in 2011.
2011, architecture at UIC. Awesome, great times with the friends and stuff. The program was wild though, just like we didn't sleep.
Crazy.
We did not sleep, bro. It was insane. It was a lot of work.
Wow.
But with that, the whole point was like we were trying to work towards working for someone or some company and everything. So when I graduated, I was applying to a lot of different firms and businesses and everything. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you. It was one specific interview. I was in the office sitting there, and I literally zoned out because as she was talking, I literally sat there and said, I do not want to do this. Like I remember that moment. I remember being downtown in this interview room with this lady, and she's showing me everything that they do and all this stuff. And I was like, I literally do not want to do this, And I was like, oh, shook hands, left. And I was like, man, I'm not really interested. Because I'm also, musician, worship leader, and all these things. I was like, I really want to solely focus on my music. Not knowing that I was already me indirectly having a business, being a musician, songwriting, and things like that. Just like it's just a creative thing, Then I started teaching it in 2014. And that's when 2013. And that's when I started my own first business. It was a nonprofit at first. Even with that, I was working at Target. I was working at Office Max at the time. Oh man, so many different companies I was working for growing up and everything. Then eventually was like, let me just venture into this. Was it 3-4 years ago? I was like, yo, let's just solely just do this. My businesses, because they were kind of like on the side, moonlighting them,
Yeah.
Then I was like, man, I want to go into this. But I was afraid to jump into it. I was like, hey, I'll hold off a little bit. I'll wait until the new year, start January 1st, the whole fresh, New Year's resolution type thing, have some type of excuse. Even though I felt the tugging already from the Holy Spirit, it's like, I'm calling you to do this now.
Wow.
That was getting my bosses at the job I was working. They were sending me books because they knew I had my businesses. They were like, hey, here's a book, The Big Leap. That was a good book. And then they were saying, after you read this, don't leave, because they felt like after I read it, I'll be like, oh, not really got to do it, And sure enough, 2-3 months later, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And September, it was like my birthday gift to myself. I think it was 2021 or 2022. I was like, let's go ahead and do this, And no turning back, man. It's been fantastic. But there was this fear of this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is what it's like. How do I just jump into this fully? And that's because over the years, I feel like I'm teaching my kids already. Like, yo, if they don't want to go to college, they don't have to go to college. You already have the gifts God give you. Start cultivating this. Start building their brand now. Start setting them up right now so they can just literally walk into it and their families are set and their families are set. That's how it should be.
That's powerful,
yeah, man.
I was thinking about how, when the school system was created, how it was for the 9-to-5 worker, right? It's not really optimized for somebody to be a creative, problem-solving entrepreneur, right? In order for you to develop those type of skills, you got to do stuff, right, with your hands,
bro. That's it.
And you got to work, right? I think we used to have those type of things in schools, right? I remember there was wood shop, and I went to an agriculture school. We did agriculture and work with animals and different things that would really teach you these problem-solving skills and these creative skills, right? Because creativity is also
auto class too.
Yeah. So I think the education has to shift, right? But it's not optimized for that, because if you shift the education, then you're essentially breeding more competitors for people who are already greedy, trying to monopolize different industries, right? But what we see now is that there's so many people with access to cameras and media and can start their businesses that, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? And so that's why we see the online education industry really bubbling up, because now, okay, how do I get the information I need to be able to jump into a creative space and make money without necessarily going to college that really doesn't give me those skill sets anyways, right? So I think there's to that point, this is why the education industry, online education, is so booming, because our traditional education system isn't giving us what we need to be able to take advantage of this digital revolution that's taking place right now.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. I mean, the academic space, like you're talking about colleges, high schools, colleges, and things like that, they're really geared towards just the educational aspect from the book. Just kind of just teaching this information. But a big thing we say is going from information to transformation.
Yeah.
Even like, spiritually, when you read the word, you don't just want to like, okay, I know all the history of the Jewish nation and Jesus and all that stuff. The information is good. That's fine. But you want that transformation. That's what God is all about. So that comes from the experience. That comes from going through things. It's the same thing in the academic space too. We can learn 4 years and go to college and stuff, but if we didn't have any classes or opportunities to actually go out and execute and implement these specific things, it's not really going to do anything. So you need that experiential learning as well. That's key to be able to build these skills. You don't build the skills just from reading the book.
Yeah.
You got to actually have those moments to go out. So I think that's what a lot of people are learning and realizing. And then when they start becoming hobbyists, or you have trade schools and different things like that, which are just awesome. It's like, I'm specifically honing in on this specific trade, and they're teaching me this skill for the sake of actually just going out and starting my own thing. You can work for someone else, but with the trade school, I have this trade, so I can already have these skills and I'll be able to put it together. So tell me, what are some things that can help propel people into that space to be able to start focusing more on entrepreneurship and starting their own business? Like, what are some things that can kind of help mentally shift from, okay, I work this 9 to 5? Because I think there's a whole thing of imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I'm adequate. I don't know if I can do this. Like, people are going to find me out. I start doing this. I don't know how far I can get before people start saying I'm a fraud or all of these different things. You got to overcome that, because we got to realize we are unique. And God is giving you the gift. If He gave you the passion for it, He's going to set you up as long as you just sit there with Him and work with Him. He's going to work with you and set you up. So what are some things that we can probably do to kind of shift ourselves mentally to go into that space?
So I just want to say first that I'm not bashing 9 to 5s, right? Because I do think there's a place, right? Because if you're not in a place where you have some type of financial stability, then you're not going to be wanting to jump into something super uncertain with absolutely no structure. Right. And that's one thing that a 9 to 5 provides you with structure. You go here, from here to here, you get this, and this is your routine and your structure, right? And that's like training wheels, right? But I think, how do we get to a place where we're fully embracing creativity and entrepreneurship? We have to look at our gifts, right? There's something that you're great at that you didn't have to go to school to learn how to do, right? That's amazing, right? That God gave us something that we're good at. Like for film. Sure, I saw some things on YouTube. Sure, I learned a couple of things in school, but there was some innate ability for me to be able to storytell via photography and video that many of my peers did not have the ability to do. And my family were like, yo, what? This dude, something's to that. He's doing really good. How did he do that? Right? I give them the same camera, and it's like, like, no offense, sorry, family. But it was bad, right? So looking at your gifts, it points you in the direction of what you should be doing, right? Now, you can work a 9 to 5, but there's a vision that comes with gifts and purpose, right? So if you're working for somebody and you're utilizing your gifts, they may not have the same vision that you have.
That's it. Yeah.
They may not have the same burden that God has put inside of you to go and do something, right? So, for example, let's say you're into carpentry, right? Okay, cool. Maybe you can work for somebody and do carpentry work. However, what if God gave you a vision where He wants you to serve a particular community, and you're not working in that community? You're like, well, this community over here pays me more money, so I'm just going to keep working under this person. But it's like, well, what if God wants to make you a $100 million business, working in this community over here, and you missed your opportunity because you just did the routine and you submitted to somebody else's vision.
That's good.
Every business has a vision. So we have to start looking at gifts. What is it that I'm good at that other people are not so good at, right? Or what is it that makes me different, that is just natural to me? Once you find your gifts, you find purpose.
That's it.
Oh, cool. This is God wants me to use this thing to do this. Okay, then you get a vision for this, where He wants me to go.
Let's go.
Okay, cool. Let's start let's start going that direction.
Wow. Yes, sir. That's so good. Yeah, man, that's literally it. I talk about this so much about, because people may be like, man, I don't know what I want to do. Where should I go? What's the next steps? If you just go back, it's the coolest thing how God made us. So he created us, he crafted us. You know, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, you know, in his image. So he created us. I feel like the last little thing, or just kind of just woven in there at some point, he put in there, hey, this is the gift. This is the part of me. This is the characteristic that comes from me that I'm giving to you that's going to set your life up. Like right away. So that thing that you were passionate about and loved to do when you were a little kid, that you did the most, that people are like, hey man, you're doing that too much. You know, it's a little annoying. What you doing? All of those things, maybe that's the thing God is using to set you up to venture into what he's calling you to do.
Yeah.
You know, so you got, I mean, I'm going to go back. I want you to share yours too. But I'm going to share, when I was a little kid, like, bro, I talked so much. It was crazy. I mean, if my mom is here, she comments on this video and sees this, she's going to be like, yeah, drew every report card.
Yeah.
Joy, you know, good grades, little comment section. Yeah, Joy just keeps talking in class, you know, to everyone, just like social butterfly, just love always connecting and talking to people. You know, that was one thing. Another thing was I loved, commercials, watching TV all the time, commercial jingles, always singing those jingles, bro, or the intros to shows and stuff, just always humming and singing and doing all this stuff, whatever stuff. And now, you know, I love speaking, you know, love songwriting, love singing, playing instruments, all these different things, teaching it as well. And those are the things that I've just been doing my whole life. So if people just go back before their brains were rewired with the way schooling is and go back to like, man, what was I just passionate about? Doing hair, cooking, you know, whatever these things are, then maybe you need to revisit that.
Yeah.
You know, or if you're already doing that, maybe you can see how can I tap into this more, you know? Yeah, so like for you, what was like the things you kind of just trace back to growing up where it's like, this is what I did all the time?
Man, you know, when I was younger, I was really athletic. So, you know, I used to play a lot of sports.
Yeah.
And I used to play basketball every day.
Love basketball.
Like, it was like every day.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was that, number one, outside of just inherent, you know, athletic ability, I was always a team player. I was always a leader.
Yeah.
Right. And I always, once again, had that ability to connect with people and talk to people like you. You know, I had that ability. And I think, right, it doesn't have to be something super astronomical.
Yeah.
That is important because now I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, some people don't have leadership ability or aren't good at working with people on a team, especially our youth.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them struggle with working with people on a team. That's one of the main skills I have to develop in them when we're trying to do production together. Because it's like, hey, you got to talk to the person that's setting up the lights if you're setting up the camera. Like,
right.
You guys got to talk. So I think, you know, just that's what I draw back to is like being a kind person, being a compassionate person, having good communication skills, and just being a likable individual.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, being a person of service. That's the stuff that carries me like to this day. It doesn't have to be like rocket science.
Yeah.
You know?
So simple. Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like if we just seek God, how the scriptures tell us, you know, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. Seek his will in all that you do, and he will tell you which path to take.
Yeah.
You know, so if we do that and couple it with walking in the fruits of the Spirit, you know, how you just mentioned, like it's not rocket science. God's calling us to be loving, kind, gentle, you know, patient, peaceful, you know, practice self-control, all these different things and whatnot. You know, if we just operate in those things and truly seek his face, he'll tell us what direction to go and everything. We don't have to shy away from venturing out into what God's calling us to do, you know. Again, like you said, to your point, it is very important to like, okay, if I'm in between, yes, this is a great place to be. You know, they're paying. You know, I have a family I got to feed. You know, so like I got these 10 kids. I'm just going to go ahead and just quit. You know, whatever and stuff. You know, you have to use wisdom. That's where it comes seeking his face. That's the first thing. Seek first the kingdom of heaven. That's key. And everything we talk about, seek first the kingdom of heaven. But all of this is more so if it's tugging at your heart. If you've been wrestling with this for a while, these are little tips and tidbits to help you to kind of just go into that direction. You know, so So yeah, man.
One last thing I'll say is,
Yeah.
is this idea that I got when I was serving in the military. Bloom where you're planted.
That's
right?
good, yeah.
So even if you're working a 9 to 5, it's not what you want to do. You know you want to go into being an entrepreneur, and you just aren't there yet.
Yeah.
Perform well where you're at.
Good. Yeah.
It may be somebody there who's watching you, who may be able to set you up for your entrepreneurship journey, or who may be a big client for you when you jump into entrepreneurship.
Dude.
But if you're not being in that spirit of excellence while you're in a place that you don't necessarily want to be, right? Because maybe you're getting some skill sets, and maybe you're getting tested, by God, right? You gotta still maintain that same character, that same integrity, that same spirit of excellence, because you don't know why you're there, but you know you're there, which means you're supposed to be there.
You're supposed to be there. Wow,
so you gotta bloom where you're planted.
Yes, sir. Dude, that's so good. And also think about the book. I don't know if you heard of Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Myron Golden mentioned one of his books before. He has the books talking about, talking about business. And he's a Jewish rabbi.
Okay.
And it's so good because he was saying, whether you're an entrepreneur or have your own business, if you're working at someone's job, like a 9 to 5, that's still your business. Like, you are your business there. So you got to think of your boss as your client. If you shift your mind and think of your boss as your client, and you're providing the service that they're requesting of you, like their client that says, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, like that's your position. But think of it from the angle of, hey, this is the request that they're asking. They're my client, and I'm going to make sure I'm providing this with excellence. And then you'll begin to thrive in that space. Because like you said, God could literally just be building you up for what's next. So you don't want to despise that season per se.
Yeah.
But then there's also this flip side of not staying there too long if he's calling you to something else, to something greater.
Yeah.
You want to be able to be prepared for that. But you're in the season right now, there's preparation. So, don't goof off, because, just being on your phone, talking and doing all this goofy stuff because you really would rather be someone else. We talk to so many people at checkout, oh, how you doing? I'm just ready to go home and stuff. It's like, man, we can shift our minds, just be in that space and be like, hey, today's a great day. Just lock in with where we're at in the season we're in. I feel like God will bless that. Even if you're ready to go into that promised land. That's one thing God hated as I'm reading, as I'm surveying through the Old Testament. He hated just the grumbling and the complaining. He's like, I'm literally giving you everything you need. Y'all still over here complaining and whining. It's like, how dare you, So it makes sense God being frustrated. So in whatever season you're in, have that contentment, but still put in that work. Still putting that work for what's to come. You got to be future minded, like how we started this video. You're talking about the future minded part. You want to be looking ahead and thinking ahead,
Yes, sir.
So yeah,
that's good. Contentment is the key there.
Yeah.
Not because you don't know what entrepreneurship is going to be like once you jump into it anyway.
Right. It ain't like it's easy. Like it's easier than
sweet. So when you jump into that, there'll be issues there too. You go, oh wow, I doing what I love to do, but there's an up and down in terms of my consistency of income or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like there's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs, but being at peace with where God has you at, that'll serve you a long way.
That's good. That's good. Holy smokes. Hey man, we hope this added value to you guys. This was a great topic, and I hope this really encouraged you all too, because God may be calling you something bigger, something better, and you're taking a while to step out. You may want to get everything in order first and all of this, but God is saying, seek His will. Seek Him, and He'll provide all of that. He'll provide everything that you need if you are seeking Him. So hopefully this encourages you.
Amen.
And go ahead and venture into that next season. If that's what the Lord is calling you to do, go ahead and comment below. We would love to hear from you guys. Comment below on, hey, what's something that you've been wanting to do and you've been thinking about doing? And let's chop it up and talk about it and see if we can even talk about ways that you can kind of make that pivot and what the next steps will be. We love you guys. I hope you're doing well, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.
Peace.